everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You are listening to episode 107. It's the week of, what week is it? Oh yeah, it's December 20th, 2020. I am your host, Drew, and
20th.
I am December 20th. Will, how the hell are you, bud?
Dude, I'm well. I feel so overdressed because starting today, I decided to dress a little bit better, for work. Because generally, since I've been working at home, I have just been wearing like hoodies and just like stay at home gear. And today, actually, I have like a nice sweater on with like a t-shirt underneath and like a pair of jeans.
Wow.
And I honestly, man, I feel pretty good. But I feel like a little bit too like business cash for the podcast.
Business cash. Wow. Well,
Like it's a nice sweater, dude. It's like a blue, nice sweater with like a white, clean undershirt on that, like, the collar's not all fucked up, like it's clean. You know what I mean? Like it's not all stretched out.
You don't have the stretched collar there.
I've got my fitted like dress jeans on.
You're still wearing your jeans? Dude.
Yeah, dude.
One of the first things I did as soon as I got home was put sweatpants on. And I never used to be that way. And then I moved in with Nikki, and she's like all day, every day, sweatpants if she can get away with it. And something happened. She changed me. I don't know if it's for the best or for the worst, but now I come home and it's like I'll have jeans on for about 20 minutes and then I'm out of them. Just done with that.
All year I've been in sweatpants and gym shorts and, raggedy t-shirts and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you can just get to this point where you're just like, you know what? I just want to put some regular clothes on.
Yeah.
And look like a professional 35-year-old.
Well, you don't leave the house anymore. I still have to leave the house, so I get to get dressed.
Yeah. And during the summer, dude, I'd walk out like literally into the middle of the driveway in the street with like no shoes on, no socks, just barefoot, like a hobbit to go and check the mail. Oh. And I'd have gym shorts on and a raggedy t-shirt, and I'd sometimes see my neighbors. I'm like, man, I must look like a sack of shit to them.
Dude, I could picture you walking out with your gym shorts, like this like tank top that has like holes in it, fucking like slippers with like Winnie the Pooh on them, no socks, just barefoot, getting the mail. Honest, like, get off my lawn.
I wouldn't say it's that bad. I certainly don't have the Winnie the Pooh slippers, but damn, dude, I was wearing like, sometimes a pair of red shorts with like a teal t-shirt and then like no shoes and no socks on. I'm just going to get the mail. My hair is all jacked up. Glasses have like little like nose prints from the cats on them, like nudging and stuff.
That's the worst.
So yeah, this is probably the most professional I've ever looked on camera, potentially ever.
I'm impressed.
Actually, that's not true.
I'm impressed. I feel blessed. I feel honored. I know our chat room feels honored. We got a ton of people in the Twitch chat tonight. Everybody, how's it going?
What's going on?
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. This is the last episode of 2020. We're going to take a week off. We're going to chill. We're going to relax. We're going to play some video games. But tonight we're going to talk about video games, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to it. Well, let's just do that little shilling that we got to do real quick. Get that out of the way and we can dive in, man. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You are listening to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective for the week of December 20th, because today is the 21st, but yesterday was the 20th epic outro, or whoever said it. I think it was. I'm throwing Dave under the bus already. I don't even know it was definitely him. So you can check us out on the web at www.WDGRPodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast, of course. Will, what's new in the world of SoundCloud, and how can they find you?
SoundCloud.com/Will_gear. You can check out my latest 3 tracks that are pretty meditative. So if you're in need of chilling out and the world is overwhelming, then I highly recommend listening to them. Haven't done any creations since those 3, but they're pretty new. Mm-hmm. And my vacation starts officially this Wednesday, which I'm pretty pumped for. And I plan on putting out a lot of content, all brand new. So
very nice.
Stay tuned.
Get that Sakuhachi. Am I saying that right?
Shakuhachi.
God, I'm the worst.
There you go.
I'm the worst. I'm sorry.
How dare you pronounce that ancient Japanese flute incorrectly?
Oh, God. Oh, man. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, but we kind of wanted to start out with talking about the show this year in 2020. and just kind of recapping some of the cool stuff that happened. So why don't you kind of
Of
take it
course.
away and start with us here?
Oh man, like where to start, right? Like it's been such a incredible journey. We talk about it so many different times of how it's kind of hard to believe that we're still doing this.
Mm,
What was once a casual conversation in an arcade in a driveway, we're still doing this, and it feels really good.
yeah.
This year has been obviously challenging for I think everybody, but we managed to kind of just plug away and keep consistent with putting out episodes, and with the podcast being something that we do from home, it only made sense to just keep rolling with it. We could have easily checked out and just been like, you know what, man, I'm just depressed and like COVID sucks, and we're just gonna like take this hiatus.
Mm,
And I'm glad that we didn't. We kept gaming, we kept doing reviews, we kept getting guests on,
hmm.
and honestly, it's been kind of this wild blur, where I can't even really remember who we've had on the show this year. When Jimmy is like, oh, obviously the best guest is himself. I was like, man, I don't even remember who's been on the show this year.
I know, like I'd have to go back and like really look at the episode releases and check the titles. Thank God it's in the titles, but um, like I remember listening to Salt City Gamescast, and shout out to those guys. It's a great podcast if you're looking for something to add to your collection. Um, it's a trio that records that show, and they were in the habit of recording in person. They all live locally with each other in Salt Lake City, and the three of them would get together in the same room, talk about games, drink heavily, and that was their thing. And when they started recording remotely, I remember there was some kind of bumps in the road as they kind of learned the process and got used to it. And I feel in a way lucky that you and I have been fortunate enough to have always been doing this over the internet. We live in the same state, but we do not live nearby. It's an hour
We don't.
drive without traffic, and that presents its own challenges. So for us, getting together to record was always the special episode. Recording remotely was the norm. Um, so it was kind of an easy adjustment. I feel it was just a
Mhm.
matter of just staying motivated to keep going. And God damn it, man. Like, even like sometimes I'll come home and I'm exhausted. I don't want to do anything, but I really still want to record. Like, I've never lost that motivation to like just sit down and talk about games with you for an hour, and chatting with the Discord room. We have a wonderful Discord room. Uh, I'm really proud of that, and all the people that are in there talking about all different types of games for all different systems and platforms. Couldn't have asked for anything better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. And I think you make a really good point. Doing this podcast remote has always been the norm for us.
Right.
So for all the folks that are doing these in-person podcasts, what an adjustment they had to make.
Yeah. But it's kind of crazy, man. Like, in a way, like 2020 has also become the year of the podcast, because you had a lot of people that were in quarantine and like, this podcasting thing sounds cool. Let's do it. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of people that have started up their own shows, or maybe, restarted a show that kind of fell off the wagon for a little while, or whatever the case is. And whether it's our show or another show, podcasting is an art form, and it's one that I truly love. I love listening to podcasts. I love recording podcasts. I love being part of that community. So, if you guys have a favorite podcast that you want to share with us, swing on by our Discord room, drop us a link, let us know, or maybe hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, or drop a link in the chat if it's able to. You might not be able to. I think I locked that down. We got spammed a couple weeks ago. So
We did. We did.
uh but yeah, man. And it's kind of been a weird year too, because we made the transition to doing video. And
We did.
this is only our 7th episode doing Twitch streams, but it's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun, and it's new for us. Obviously we haven't been on video ever until recently,
Right.
and I'm enjoying it. It's literally showing our faces to the world and to the fans, and I think that's way overdue in some ways. And I think a lot of podcasts are migrating into that video territory, whether it's Twitch,
Mm,
YouTube, or some other platform.
right.
I think it's a good way to make podcasts a little bit more intimate.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch the Joe Rogan podcast years ago, back in like '09, 2010, and I really enjoyed watching the podcast because you
Right.
can actually pick up on behaviors and personality traits and things that you can't get via audio. So I think
Mm.
it's a really good move for us.
That's a interesting point, and not something I had really considered, but I guess like it makes sense, because you have somebody that you ask a question and maybe they pause to think about the answer, and you'll get that like eye look to the side. Like I just did it myself before I replied to you. Little
Hmm.
subtle details that you might have missed otherwise. I know on a personal level, like I do the hands thing a lot, and it's given me an opportunity to be a little bit more animated, because like I'm a very animated person. When you see me and when I have a conversation, not necessarily the Italian kind of stuff, but I do like a lot of like mannerisms, and it's just part of my nature. And plus you can watch me drink this beer.
Yeah, I was thinking of some clever, witty Italian Sopranos thing to say, and all I came up with was "pass the breadsticks." It's not even an Italian accent.
Pass the breadsticks. That might be our episode title. Oh
Sometimes I could
god.
just rip on like Tony Soprano quotes and all this kind of stuff, and it sounds somewhat genuine.
Yeah.
But that time I just had a super primo white boy pass the breadsticks with this.
Oh, basic white boy, non-Italian.
Yeah, lazy pregnant cat approach to that.
Oh god.
No, hey man, I mean, like moving into one of our other topics that we're going
Mm,
to get to later, I think that it would be pretty cool to have COVID be a thing of the past next year or sometime
yes.
soon, so we can actually get together in person, sit down at a table, have us on video, and have a lot of those mannerisms and sort of hand gestures and all that kind of stuff come to life. Because right now I'm standing sort of robotically at this standing desk, which is great. But you lose a lot of
Yeah.
what's happening with my hands and my arms down below.
Yeah. And Scooby, you asked about the standing desk stuff and how it is weird. Wait till you see it drop in the middle of the show unannounced. We'll just
Yeah,
like all of a sudden the camera just starts shaking and stuff, and next thing you know, he's like 4 inches taller than he was before. It's weird.
yeah. I think it's important to clarify too that I'm in my work office, so I'm using my desk riser, which is on a pneumatic pump. So the smoothness is certainly not there
Mm.
compared to my autonomous desk downstairs, which is click of a button and then I'm just gonna kind of dropping with it like so. So I can make it a little bit more discreet. With this one, it's just like ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
It's like just I don't know.
It's just, well, one is
It's
a
more rigid.
$500 desk and the other one is not. So
Yeah, this is what the millennials say, less robust, if you will.
yeah,
So,
those damn
but hey,
millennials.
man, I'm just I'm just happy to be standing and sitting whenever the hell I want.
Epic Outro suggests that you turn on the ceiling fan for more visual impact. I think that's a great idea. Uh,
I
um,
probably would if it wasn't feeling like 30 out, which it probably is. So,
mm. Well, I am in a room with two computers that are running in a closed door because the cats will like invade. So, I'm probably going to start sweating within the next 20 minutes because that's what I do.
Godspeed.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we played a lot of games in 2020, didn't we?
We certainly did. And
Um,
I'm pretty proud of what we played.
yeah, this was a kind of a landmark year for me as far as like beating games, something that I utterly failed at in 2019. And we have a list here of some of the games that we played and beat, and it is
Hmm.
it's an impressive list, I got to say, man.
It's really not bad. Considering our sort of mantra for this show and our sort of tagline is, two adult gamers try to find time to game. They
Yeah.
have no time for gaming.
Yep. Yep.
Considering that that's kind of our slogan, I'm pretty proud of what we achieved. It looks like you have a little bit more than I do.
Mm.
Um, but this was never a competition. We just wanted to play games and try and get some stuff beat.
Yeah, and it's been a ton of fun too. I nothing, not everything on my list are, they're not all games that I beat, but the overwhelming majority of them are games that I beat. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I have a pretty good sampling of stuff, and I'm sure I'm missing things. I know there are games that I've sampled that I ducked in and just kind of bailed out on, or maybe I put aside for later. Um, but like I'm really proud of the mixture of indie titles and AAA titles on here. I feel like I I hit a lot of notes with some of the stuff. And as I'm thinking, like I forgot about other games that I played too. So I'm like literally adding stuff as we go. But anyway, what were some of the standouts for you?
I mean, I think this one goes without saying, and probably will come as no surprise to most of the listeners. But God of War,
Mm.
PS4,
Mm-hmm.
that was just groundbreaking for me and for a lot of folks. And even though it's a 2018 game, it was something I finally got to this year, pretty early on,
Yep.
and absolutely cherished it. So I would say that one is one of my standouts. I certainly have more.
Yeah. This was 2020 was the year that I finally dove into The Last of Us as a franchise, and the 1-2 punch of The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2, I think still resonates with me, and I still find myself kind of getting into like this internal struggle with how I feel about The Last of Us 2 as a game. There were parts of it that I absolutely adored. There were parts of it that I really struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
We had a wonderful episode where Epic Outro joined us, and we broke it down. I think we spent almost 2 hours talking about the game, and we dove into details, and we still forgot shit because there was just so much in there. But man, like I am so excited about the possibility that awaits with the TV show that's coming out whenever that
Mm-hmm.
is. Like I think that has some amazing potential, and I absolutely consider myself a fan of the franchise now, whereas I really didn't give a shit, 9 months prior.
Same. Yeah, I just it looked like one of those AAA games that I didn't want to get involved with. I mean, it looked good from a visual perspective,
Yeah.
but because it was sort of zombie-ish, I was turned off, and I
Mm,
shouldn't have written it off that quickly because the
mm,
first game, which I did play this year and beat, man, talk about tremendous.
yeah.
It's a powerful story, and I mean, we certainly know the rest, but um, yeah, I just I can't believe that we both got to it so late.
Yeah. Well, we both had our reasons, but we both also stopped at the same point, which is very bizarre. And I think if we had just spent a little bit more time with the first game, even another half hour, I think both of us would have gotten hooked because, that's really what it took. Like I just had to power through that
Mm-hmm.
one section and really
Mm-hmm.
just kind of get to the meat of the story. And I was hooked. And I know that you had, some uncomfortable feelings around playing The Last of Us 2.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever find yourself in the mindset where you think that's a game you can go back to, I cannot recommend it enough. It's a challenging game in a lot of ways, but I think it is worth your time.
I still think that there's a possibility that that could happen.
Mm,
And I think it was a bad idea, I think, for me at the time to jump from one to two
yeah.
that quickly.
Hmm.
Considering that time in my life this year was pretty tough because it was like sort of I wouldn't say the beginning of COVID, but it was just when things were just like really setting in for everybody. And
Yeah.
people were realizing like, oh shit, this is really gonna be here for a while.
Right.
And I think they're probably some of the worst games that you could play this
Yeah.
year, if you're kind of sensitive to just kind of some of those life sufferings.
Yeah, that was kind of a bad 1-2 punch, I think. Maybe you should have thrown something lighthearted in there, like I don't know, solitaire or something.
Yeah,
I'm like
on
looking
like
at your
some
list. I'm
old
like,
Windows computer.
well, like I'm looking at your list of games that you have here, and it's like all this like deep indie shit,
Oh yeah.
Shadow Colossus or Last Guardian. Well, Vanquish would have been a good one to play, but
Yeah.
yeah, Dave, Epic Outro suggests Doom Eternal, and like that was the game that I struggled with because that came out right when the pandemic started, and uh, I was home from work and there was stuff going on at work with people. There was somebody at work that tested positive, and like my mind was just in a terrible place. And I struggled with that game. I actually did need to step away from it for a little while, and I'm glad I did. I was able to
Hmm.
circle back to it, and it was like the bane of my existence. But I'm glad I finished it.
Yeah, I think it was a moment where I just saw too many like dead bodies in the game, and
Mm.
too many throats getting slit. I was like, all right, that's it.
Yeah. No, I mean, Last of Us is definitely a gory, visceral game, but the story that it tells is very powerful, and I think the gore and that horror is necessary to tell the story that they are, because what those two ladies go through is absolute hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know of an easier way for them to tell that tale.
Yeah, and I think, what they have to deal with, like these I can't even remember what they're called now. They're not zombies. Oh, the runners and the
Mm.
clickers.
Yep.
Basically, all of the enemies that they have to encounter, they have to take them down that way. It's
Mm.
not like they can just be like, you know what, here's here's like an inoculation that's just going to put you to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no humane way of doing this. They really have to get visceral, and I think visceral is the key word with that game,
Yeah. Yeah.
story wise and gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely. It is emotionally draining, especially by the end. What else you got? Let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, I mean, powerful game. Granted, it was kind of that 40-hour slog that Joe refers it as. And it was. I mean, it
Yeah.
got to the point where I think, when I did my review, it was clear that I was ready to be done with the game, and I was pleased and relieved, I would say, more than anything, to have finished it.
Mm-hmm.
But the game itself was really, really good, and I was extremely impressed with it. I've
Mm.
been seeing a lot of people rate it as game of the year for this year, and I can agree with that. And it's made me kind of want to play it again. I was even
Wow.
shuffling around with some themes again recently, like last night. For whatever reason, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want this Ghost of Tsushima theme anymore, because Atlas keeps jumping on the soundbar trying to swat at the leaves that are that are blowing in the wind because it's a dynamic theme. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? This little fucker. So I loaded up the themes, and I was like, oh, I forgot I had all these like really nice FF7 remake themes.
Yeah.
And some of them have like music, and some are more dynamic than others. And I was like, you know what? I really fucking like this game.
Mm.
Because now that slog is over, and I can, I'm past that sort of suffering stage now, I would absolutely play it again. But
Mm.
I think sometime next year, I would say, look, well into next year, I would probably fire it back up. Like if they announced like the second installment and that was going to come out, say, end of next year,
Mm-hmm.
I would fire it up like summer,
Yeah.
so I could kind of get like ramped up for it.
Hmm. Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna sit down with that game. I don't own a copy yet, but I'm sure I can grab it for $20 at some point or another. I
Yeah,
just
I would wait.
After hearing you talk about the game and the feelings I have for the original, it just seems like it's, I don't know. I'm gonna be like one of those guys. Oh, you shouldn't have changed it. Like get
It's
off of.
different, dude.
It is different, and I understand why they did some of the things they did, because it gives them the freedom to explore other options, and that's fine. But it's hashtag not my Final Fantasy. I don't know.
No, I respect it, man. It either kind of grows on you, or you love it or hate it right away. And I know that's
Yeah,
like kind of like three different angles of looking at it, but I feel like that's kind of how it is. And
yeah,
based on what I've seen from people reviewing the game, it's one of those three roads that these people take. So
interesting. Yeah. At some point, I'm sure I'll play it. One of my goals for next year, jumping ahead topics a little bit. One of my goals next year is to spend more time with my PlayStation. So we'll see what happens. But let's see here.
What else you got?
Doom Eternal. I think we kind of briefly touched on it earlier, and that was a massive release for me that ended up being a frustrating disaster. and like even to this day, like I see ads for the DLC for the game, or I still kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh man, I should really fire that up again. Or I see a video of somebody just like absolutely slaughtering Marauder. I'm like, man, I want to learn how to do that. And then I think about my actual experience with Marauder and how he can go get fucked. And I really just don't want any part of that again. Because that was like, I can't even describe to you the hate that gave me. Like how how angry I was. Like I have you ever like gotten so mad you like try to twist the controller and like, you know, opposite.
Absolutely.
Oh my god, I'm surprised I didn't break one. I really thought I was going to break a controller.
Well,
Cuz
you touched on something interesting there, not to interrupt, but I want to speak about this. You said that sometimes you'll watch a video and you'll see somebody else like, high level gameplay playing Doom Eternal, and you're
yeah.
like, man, I wish I could do that. And I do that sometimes with games, and some of them are new games that I'm struggling with, like Sekiro or an older game.
Mhm.
And it just kind of creates that effect where you're just like, I want to do that. Like, I want to do it as well as he can.
I, I
And
want
you're
to be
just
the
sitting
guy
there.
too.
Yeah. And I'm just like, man, like, how can I not do that? And then you
Yeah.
try and do it and you still fail, and you're just like, fuck this game. And then you blame the game.
There's a subreddit that is for Cyberpunk 2077, but it's only for people that actually like the game. So so they don't allow like any of the memes or the bug posts or anything like that. It's strictly for people that are enjoying themselves. And there's this one video I saw this guy, and like he's got to have like all the perks, all the guns, all the cool shit, and he's literally just like jumping around, parkouring over all this stuff, shooting dudes in the face like it's nothing. It looks like actual John Wick. And I'm watching this. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to do that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to have all these cool perks, and I'm still going to sit in the corner. I'm going to poke my head up over the box, shoot him a couple times, hide, die, restart the game. Like, that's going to end up being my experience, most likely. But
I think it's a dangerous door or avenue to open when you're
yeah,
struggling with a game and then you go and look at somebody's walkthrough or gameplay and you're like, shit,
yeah,
I've got a lot of work to do.
yeah. Yeah, I'm speaking of Saikuro, I was just going to drop his name. Like, yeah, I just don't think I like want to tune into the stream when he's playing because I don't want to be embarrassed for myself.
Yeah. If you're struggling with games, you definitely don't want to watch Damien stream. Like
Yeah,
if you're like self-conscious about like your gaming skill or
and
lack thereof,
I am.
and you watch Damien play, you're like, shit,
Yeah,
what have I been doing all these years?
yeah, just wasting my existence, I suppose.
I'm so casual. Like that's what I say to myself when I watch Damien play. I'm like, I'm so fucking casual. And then I
uh,
see Damien just like sitting there drinking from like this medieval times water mug and just absolutely like melting people in Destiny.
he's probably got like one hand. He's got the controller in one hand.
Yeah, and he's great with those like crazy custom controllers too, like
Yeah.
the ones that have like 18 different like buttons on the bottom of it,
Oh man, I can
all
barely
those
keep.
little like triggers and shit.
Oh yeah, I can barely keep track of the fucking things I have, man. Like,
I
like
still look down sometimes.
well, like thinking back to Doom Eternal too. Like I was thinking about how many button combinations are utilized in that game and how it really forces you to use every button on the controller. And like that's a frustrating mess to my. It's like I consider myself like pretty well adapted and comfortable with the Xbox One controller, and I play keyboard and mouse games on the computer all the time too. Like I know how to use something that has more than two buttons, but in that moment, I felt like my mom and dad when they'd look at the controller when they're sitting down to play a game with me, and they're like, "I don't know what buttons what. There's too many buttons, and there's like 4.
Uh-huh.
This is like when there's 4 buttons, not like 10."
Right.
Man.
Do they do this like
Um.
when they're trying to jump? I know it's a common one.
I don't know. It's been so long. Like I haven't played a game with them in 30 years.
Sure.
But I used to play TurboGrafx games with them back in the day. My mom used to play Mortal Kombat 2 with me.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And she would just button mash, but it was fun. So anyway. But yeah, Doom Eternal, great game, not for me.
Well, it's completely respectable.
Yeah. Strider. Talk about that.
Yeah, Strider was a fun one, man. I mean, this is a game that I put a lot of time into, had a really good run with it. And then I tabled it for a while because I got really frustrated with basically the end wave of enemies before the final boss. And I just felt like I couldn't do it. I looked up strategies online and just nothing was clicking. And then I just took a good break from it. I came back and I was like, God damn it, I'm beating this game. And I just kind of went in, and I'm pretty sure I did it the first time. And I just knew that it was one of those cases where you just have to take a break for even a couple days to a week, sometimes longer. But when you come back, you're stronger than ever. And it's just because you're fatigued, quite literally. So A fun game, a game that I would maybe return to at some point in the future. But I think it's one of those games that was good, but I don't know if there's a ton of replay value there.
And that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with playing a game once. I hear
Hmm.
so many people talk about how they love to replay games that they've already played, sometimes back to back, or, one person was saying that they've played a game like 3 or 4 times through. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
I don't think
how?
I've ever done that.
No, like,
Well, actually, I have. But
unless it's like something that you grew up playing and you could run through it in an hour or two, because those games exist. There's some of the Mega Man games, Contra, things like that. Killer Sirach says he did it with Spider-Man. I'm guessing the PS4 one. Link's Awakening for Advent Portal. You guys are nuts. There's so many fucking games out right now. like, and so
Link's Awakening is so good.
yeah, so I mean, like, if it's something that you could sit down and beat in an afternoon, like, that's fine. Maybe 2 afternoons. But like, if it's the kind of game that's like going to take you more than 5 hours, like, there's just so many other games out there to play, and I don't know. Like, I'm struggling with the idea, like the Mass Effect remaster is coming out sometime next year, and I want it, but I just don't know how I'm going to find the energy to replay that franchise.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference, right? There's a difference with replaying a game sort of obsessively
Mm,
and then revisiting a game.
right.
And revisiting is something that I've certainly done. Replaying games would
Yeah.
be something like Dark Souls because of the co-op and the grindiness aspect of it.
Right.
And the only other time that I can recall playing a game by myself almost immediately after finishing it was Metal Gear Rising. And it was only because the game
Mm,
is like 4 to 5 hours long. And I was getting so good at it that I wanted to play it on the next difficulty. And Damien remembers we actually both went back and played that game almost immediately after.
yeah.
But it doesn't happen very often, for me at least.
The only way I think I could revisit or replay the Mass Effect franchise is if I did a completely different Shepard. The original one I did was male, and I went Paragon. So I'd have to go female Renegade and just do the complete opposite. That could be fun. But man, I don't know. I don't know. I want it. I'm gonna buy it probably on day one. Don't know when I'm gonna play it. Might not be right away.
I knew some people that finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I think it was my buddy Miles. He was like, "Yeah, I'm already doing my second playthrough," and I was like, "What?
What?
How?
That's a
Like, how do you have to
40-hour
pay
game.
for this?" Like, I mean,
Oh man.
that's the thing is like I loved that game, but
Mm,
the sort of going through the trenches aspect of it was just so brutal that there's no way I want to touch it for a while. I'll touch it
right.
again, but that's a complete revisiting
Mm,
experience. It's certainly not a game that I would ever beat and be like, all right, let's do it again.
yeah.
That's like, I don't know. I feel like it's like put myself in a sand pit full of snakes after I just spent 40 hours trying to get out of it. I'm just gonna be like, you know what? Let's run this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm willing to take some chances.
Credits roll. Start new game plus. Press A to begin.
Yeah, there's
uh,
no way.
oh man.
What else you got?
Speaking of long games, Octopath Traveler.
Mm.
Remember at the beginning of this year, I had this great idea of doing like, beating 12 games in 12 months.
Oh yeah.
I had that fucking thing mapped out. I'm going to play this in, January. I'm going to play this in February, blah, blah, blah. And I played Octopath and I loved it, but I never beat it. I just got like, I don't know, just beaten down by the grind. And yes, Advent Portal, I agree 100% is a great game. And
It's a gem.
I fully intend on spending some time with it, I think in 2021, because there's some truly special stuff going on in that game. The music, the art style, the stories are all right. The stories are kind of basic, but like everything about that game just really feels warm and cozy, I think would be the words that you would choose, Will. um,
100%.
yeah.
It's the definition of that.
So I want to get back to that. But I just, I don't know. I put a lot of time into it, and I think I just needed to move on. And I think I focused too much on playing it exclusively and kind of got burned out on it.
Yeah, I think Octopath is something that is too challenging to play exclusively because it's so long.
Yeah.
And everything that you said, I completely agree with. And, there's great little stories intertwined with the characters, and I love
Mm-hmm.
the aspect of having them follow you, and you kind of create this sort of band of brothers, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of rotate back and forth. I love all that,
Yeah.
and yes, the visuals. that sort of like 8 or 16-bit kind of imagery, and the music was just stunning.
Mm,
But sometimes that's not enough to kind of keep you going with it. And
right.
Octopath didn't really have that sort of magnetic pull that I kind of describe it with certain games. So
Yeah, magnetic pull, I think, is a good way to put it. Um, but I think, I mean, there's definitely something there. It's just a matter of kind of, I think, rekindling it again and finding it again.
yeah,
Advent Portal says there are combos from spells that give insane XP boosts for fast leveling. That is something that really helps. I think I may have started utilizing some of those, but I don't know how many of those I had active. So if you can, Advent Portal, shoot me a message later on, and maybe we can kind of talk about some of those. Maybe there's something I can utilize. I'd have to fire the game up again. It's been a while, but
I will say there seems to be a common trend with your experience with Octopath and even some of mine. I mean, granted, I
mm,
only played probably about 8 hours or something, but even my buddy Miles and some other folks that I've kind of spoken to, and I've even read some reviews online, people felt like there was just something lacking with it.
yeah,
And it seemed like it was always kind of tracing back to the stories, and some of the gameplay was just kind of meh at times.
mm,
Um, so it's hard. I haven't really figured out the equation of Octopath yet, and I
right,
think that I'll have a closer answer once I get my hands on it again, which I plan on doing.
yeah. The I'm trying to think of what it was. Like the stories themselves were fine, but they weren't like amazing. They're very generic. I feel.
Yes,
You had woman who was kind of pimped out. She strikes out on her own, beats up the guy. You had a knight fighting for his honor. You had the alchemist trying to find his own way. It was all this very generic stuff, and not that it was bad. Like sometimes generic is good, but there was just that it factor that I think just wasn't there. Um, Something like that, like for example, Final Fantasy VII, I think would have had that extra something that just kind of jumps off the page.
yeah, because the game. You know what? I'm going to sit down now, Drew. Here
Here
we
we
go.
go. Here we go.
You know what? This is working out. It's working out.
Ah, crash
A little bit of
landing.
a rocky landing there. Oh boy. Oh Jesus.
I hope Scooby's still with us.
To see that amazing transition.
Lovely.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of touching on your point about FF7 Remake, the gameplay was so solid in that game that sometimes that's all it takes, right? Is like that
Mm,
one feature of a game that can help mask and sort of bury some of the other flaws that you would normally be sort of perturbed by.
right.
And with Octopath, it's like, yeah, visuals, music,
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff's great, but I don't know if it was enough
Right.
to kind of bury some of those other flaws. So it's
Yeah.
hard to say.
Well, I mean, not to bury the lead on the rest of the show, but that is one of the games I'm planning to go back on, in 2021. Find some time for
Oh,
that.
for sure. For sure.
Let's see here. What's next on our list? Because we both have a pretty long list. I'm going to grab another one from mine, just to kind of balance it out a little bit.
Sure.
So coming off the heels of Doom Eternal was a game called After Party, which was this lovely indie game that I found on Game Pass, which unfortunately is no longer on the marketplace, or no longer on Game Pass. But man, that was like exactly what I needed after Doom Eternal. It was hilarious. It was simple. It was reminded me of like just these old point and click kind of adventure games from the 90s, in similar in style to like Curse of Monkey Island and stuff like that. But very basic, very dialogue driven, voice acting, clever story. Two teenagers die and go to hell, and they decide that they're going to beat the devil in a drinking contest to escape.
I
And
remember this.
what a fun game. And it turns out that it's by the same studio that did Oxenfree, which I have not played, but I do have a copy of thanks to Xbox Games with Gold. So that is something that hopefully I can find some time to play, because the writing and the game style of that game were just so clever and wonderful, and it was exactly what I needed coming off of the frustrating mess I had with Doom Eternal.
Yeah, and I think that was the highlight of this year. Is there were a lot of sort of plan B options
Mm,
for us and a lot of other folks too. Like coming off of the sort of depressing qualities of The Last of Us, I had a lot of crutches to kind of fall on for games, and a lot of those crutches became some of my favorite games ever. So that's certainly not a bad thing.
Yep. Did you ever beat Vanquish?
Oh yeah,
You
I
did.
think I beat it earlier on in the year, but it was definitely one of my games that I beat this year.
Okay, because that was a running joke for a long time that you were never going to beat it.
Oh my God, it was never ending, and it got to the point where I was like, you know what? Like I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired with it, right? Like I was just getting bullied and stoned to death. That I was like, you know what? I owe it to myself and everyone else to finish this game, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad I did. What an absolute blast of a game, quite literally. Here's a game that was on PS3. I had no headset, so I had this challenge of kind of not disturbing Lauren at times. Like I had to figure out this way of like having the computer monitor's volume down, because at the time I still had a monitor that I was playing on, and then I migrated from that to the 55-inch TV, and still I had no way of having a headset. I had given up my my Sony Gold wireless, which was the only PS3 compatible headset I had, and yeah, but that didn't matter. I played at lower volumes. I sat closer. I figured it out. And I had some challenges with it, but I'm really glad that I stuck with it because it got really good.
Yeah. I tried it. It wasn't for me, but I'm glad you dug it. I'm glad you beat it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even really into those kind of games, the sort of duck and cover shooters and all that, because it reminds me a little bit too much of Gears of War, which is just a bulky mess for me. But I think I'm just a sucker, man, for those Platinum Games titles. And because it's so over the top and ridiculous and action packed and there's sparks, I'm like a little, puppy,
You do gravitate
I just
towards
like,
those.
I do, because at the end of the day, we all know that I'm a sucker for cool games.
Fair enough.
Such a loose term. Hey, God of War's cool.
Well, Gears of War is pretty cool too, but I get what you're saying. I think a lot of people feel the same way. I think it's a great franchise, and the story of the game is really powerful. But yes, I mean, all the characters are roided up, but that's their art style too. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just the thing, and I'm a picky bastard with that.
Yep. Let's see here. From my list, The Tourist. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this game because I really didn't like it. I did beat it. I don't know what people saw in the game. It tries to do too many things, and it doesn't really execute many of them very well. The art style was kind of cool, voxel art. I thought the story had a lot of potential. Kind of talks about like this ancient civilization that really is kind of seemingly from another world. It's kind of like along the lines of, the Egyptians had helped building the pyramids kind of thing, right? Who helped them build it? Must have been ancient aliens, right? So it was something along those lines, and you had all these puzzles that you were trying to solve to unlock different temples, which would ultimately give you the pieces to a spaceship. But half of the puzzles were super obtuse, and just the controls were difficult. Like when you're in 3D space, you really need accuracy, and the camera work and the jumping mechanics just really didn't play well with each other. And I found myself frequently frustrated. I did finish it. I will never touch it again.
Yeah, that's also been kind of a theme for us this year. Like we had to kind of really sort of work hard to get through some of these games that were sometimes not great or just mildly okay. But it's like that principle of just getting it done and getting it buttoned up.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to, close the door so you can open up another one.
Couldn't agree more.
So let's talk about Sayonara Wild Hearts. That was on your list.
Yeah, I mean, not a great experience for me, but another game, off the list for the year. So certainly proud of that. Took me about an hour, probably a little over that. And yeah, just a little disappointed. I did a short review on the show earlier in the year, and I just felt like none of it really clicked with me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I was hoping that it was going to be this perfect blend of just, I don't know, like the movie Drive and some other aspects of other games that I really enjoyed, just kind of all gelled together, but it didn't gel for me. And Joe was a little disappointed because he highly recommended it my way, because he's a pretty good judge of what games I like. But yeah, man, it just didn't work out. It's not really a game, it's an experience, and that's okay. But man, I ripped on that game at the time. I
I
absolutely took a dump on it, man.
I played it maybe 6 months before you did. I don't remember when I played the game, but I kind of felt the same. It just really wasn't for me. I felt like it was too reliant on this idea of replaying the stages, and like they're expecting you to replay this game over and over and over again, and I just didn't have any interest in doing that. Let me beat a stage, let me move on, but like give me parts of stages that are like lengthy. The music was great, but it never got to that next level because the songs would get cut off, the stages would end just as I'm starting to get into that groove.
Hmm.
So for me, I think that was the biggest problem. Like if you're making this interactive music experience, let me hear the fucking songs. Don't shut
Yeah.
them off because the stage is over or it's changing.
I think
And
in hindsight, there was a good concept there, a clever concept,
mhm.
but the execution just wasn't there for me.
Yep, I would agree with that. And that's not saying like I'm not trying to run Joe down or anything. Even though
No, not at all.
he's gonna shit all over us in the chat when he sees this. But
Potentially,
yeah,
but I think now that things have calmed down more or less, I've calmed down. I think honestly, like I was just so upset because I really, really wanted to love it,
yeah,
and considering it came from a good friend of mine that generally kind of hits the nail on the head with games, it wasn't a disappointment from Joe. It was disappointing for him, and ultimately more disappointing for me because like I said, I just really wanted to enjoy it more than I did.
right, right, fair enough. Let's see here, Super Mario 3D Collection. I don't have a lot to say about that. I really bought it for the option to play Mario 64 on a controller that I didn't hate.
Hmm.
And, what I found out was that the Switch Joy-Cons are also controllers that I hate. So,
They're not great. They're not great.
they're really not. And precision is absolutely necessary for Mario 64. So, one of the guys I work with, Brian, he's a listener of the show. He recommended I pick up a Bluetooth adapter from 8BitDo, and I guess that is compatible with both Xbox and PS4 controllers, and I can connect those to the Switch.
Okay.
So I've been meaning to grab one of those, and honestly, I just keep forgetting. They're only like $20. One of these days, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to start using that for the game rather than spend the $80 on a Pro controller. I think because
You
I'm
know,
I'm literally looking at 4 Xbox controllers at this very moment.
well, I'll tell you what, man. I might have potentially good news, unless I just saw this incorrectly or
Mm.
there's some weird sale. But back when we were messing around with the Switch and contemplating getting one, the Pro controller was $100, and I'm pretty sure it was $100 when it came out, and then it dropped, and I'm pretty sure it's only like 60 or 70 now because I've been eyeing it for my
Mm.
my Switch acquirement goal here.
I've seen Walmart carrying it with a copy of Super Mario Odyssey for around
Hmm.
70,
Okay.
which is a great deal. And Super Mario Odyssey is a game that I'm interested in playing, but it's just a matter of timing before I can really jump on that.
I think it's worth it. I mean, I owned the Pro controller, and it was definitely a huge, massive improvement
Mm.
from the Wii U Pro controller, which was also good, but very plasticky and sort of piano black, so it was just laced with fingerprints. Whereas the one for the Switch is just better built, and
Yeah.
overall, I think it really changes the experience, especially with certain games.
Epic Outro is saying buy it, Will.
Oh, I hope so, man. As
uh,
long as I can find everything, that mission is still in place.
mm. I'm going to jump on another game on my list here, Katana Zero. Great
Mm.
little side scroller, semi action platformer, semi puzzler, all badass. It has a wonderful story, very intriguing, super cool music. It's a Will's cool game, I'm telling you. Uh,
It certainly is.
Worth your time if you like that retro vaporwave aesthetic. You remember the days of putting a VHS tape and playing a VHS off your TV, and you like bands like Gunship and
I do.
FM83 and all those. Uh, this game is going to be right up your alley. Soundtrack's awesome, absolutely awesome. Great game. I have yet to finish it. I Can't wait to sit down with it again, though.
I'm going to have to go into PS prices and put it in my collection.
I recommend it. You won't be disappointed. What's next for you, man?
Let's take a look at the list. I mean, I've touched on The Last of Us. Certainly a powerful experience. We all know that we both played that game this year, and I think that it's definitely worth, putting on that list of games completed, not just out of principle, but for the fact that I did genuinely enjoy it. I thought it was less violent than the second one. I thought the story was absolutely excellent and very memorable. Sometimes I still think about it. And I think that it's a game that most people should play. No matter what kind of games you're into, I think this is an experience that's pretty accessible. I'm sure it's violent at times, but it's certainly tolerable, I think. And there's this survival aspect that I think a lot of folks aren't aware of until you play the game, because it's very much a survival horror game. And the way that that game was shown originally years ago, it made it just look kind of like this basic survival game where you're just using like stuff to, like, you're just tossing bricks at baddies and you're just running around this sort of dilapidated world. But it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you and I played it so we could experience the story for what it was.
Yep. I don't have anything else to add there, but yeah,
I think it's a 10 out of 10. And again, I wouldn't critique me over my dissatisfaction with 2. I think that I have other reasons for that, but this game absolutely deserves all the accolades that it did receive at the time.
Not to spend too much time on part 2 again, but I really do think it was just a case of wrong place, wrong time, or wrong game, wrong time.
I agree.
I think if you come back to that in 2021, you can kind of slog through the parts that are more difficult, and I think you'll find a lot more rewarding parts from it.
I think so.
Let's see here. Tacoma was a game that was on Game Pass. I had seen that it would be leaving shortly, and I was like, I always wanted to play this. I have no idea what it's about. Let's fire it up. I beat it the same day. And that's
always a good thing.
It's always a good thing. You are investigating a space station which had a catastrophic accident, and basically the crew is running out of oxygen, and you are there to investigate what went wrong and how it all went down. And you do this by essentially looking at a series of echoes. It's kind of like you're looking at, imagine taking security cameras and playing them back in virtual reality. I think that would probably be the best way to describe it.
Ooh, the swapper, not to interject, but that game is magical.
I have not played the swapper, but I am familiar with some of the ideas behind it, and I don't think it is anything like the swapper. Could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I didn't get that vibe. But basically, you're an engineer. It's not brain dances. Sorry. Saikuro's like, he's going on the cyberpunk train right now, but no, it's not like that. It's more akin to the echoes that you would see in like Horizon Zero Dawn, where you're watching something play out and you're following along, but there's clues that you can pick up along the way that help you kind of piece together this larger puzzle. And it's a very short game. It's a great experience. It involves kind of seeing what happens with AI, and there's some morality that goes in with that as well too. I think I spent about 4 or 5 hours playing it. It was worth every minute of it, and probably not the type of game that I would ever go back and play, but certainly an experience I will remember. I'm very excited to see what comes next from that studio, and I'm having trouble remembering which game it was now, but there was a game that was announced at the Game Awards, and I'm looking it up now to see if I can find it. Open Roads, which you heavily criticized last week, but no, that to
I was
me,
being moody.
You were a whiny bitch, but I'm like, that's one of the games that I'm very much looking forward to seeing.
Yeah.
So and like not to derail too much, but like a lot of, I think, the things I took away from that event that I wasn't able to necessarily relay at the time, but like I'm starting to follow studios. And I
Mm.
saw a lot of stuff from a lot of studios that I really like. So,
I think a lot of folks are doing that. I mean, take a game like Returnal, designed by Housemarque,
mm,
which they're the guys behind Resogun, which
mm,
was a PS4 launch title that no one really cared about at first, but then it became this sort of cult classic.
hmm
And it's a great game. It's like a sort of arcade shooter. Um, but yeah, man, Returnal looks really good. I don't want to stray too much, but damn, that game looks good.
Returnal. I don't know anything about this.
I think they showed some gameplay at the Game Awards.
I'll have to. I have to look into it.
We can touch
Um,
on that at some point.
yeah, we'll have to talk about that later. Let's see here. Um, do you want to go next? You can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got two more here. So, looks like, let me see here. I actually want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I beat 8 games
Mm.
for folks not following suit here, and I don't expect you to because we've just been going back and forth. But yeah, 8 games total, 2 left. I would say Shadow of the Colossus would be next in terms of order of playthrough. And man, what more can I say about this game? Did a full-fledged review on the site, WCG, and then we did a review on the show. And man, I still think about this game,
Mm.
how contemplative it is, and how the majority of this game is just literally riding through this forbidden land. And I think that I loved it for that. I loved it because it was this escape from everything bad this year.
Mm.
And to be able to sort of just lose yourself in this immersive open world filled with nothing
Mm-hmm.
besides just butterflies, birds, and nature, that was a really big breath of fresh air, considering that most open worlds are filled with like, hey, can you do this favor for me?
Oh
like every
God.
fucking 5 minutes. So I think it was nice to be
Uh,
able to like get on my horse, my unresponsive horse, and just kind of gallop through the wilderness and
mm.
take down these beasts and question why I was doing it.
Yeah.
I think there was something really kind of cathartic about it, and it was certainly one of my top picks for 2020.
Yeah. You inspired me to really want to give that a play at some point.
I think it's very special.
It seems like it, and it seems like the kind of game that I think I would really enjoy too. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of the feelings that Octopath invokes. That kind of warmth.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a cozy game per se, but I think there are aspects of it that
Mm.
are. And I think that it's more of that. It's got that sort of a escapism
Mm.
quality that you can't always find it in a lot of games because there's no way of really escaping.
Yeah. For me, I think I'm going to go with Spiritfarer next. A game that I did not expect to beat. A game that I remember seeing at, I don't know if it was Gamescom or E3 or what. It was some trailer, and I was like, "Oh man, this looks awesome! I want it." And then it came out on Game Pass, and I started playing it, and I was like, "This is fucking Animal Crossing on a boat." Like, what is this shit? And what I ended up finding was, I think, probably the perfect game for 2020 in multiple ways. You're playing as Stella, who is taking over the role of the Spiritfarer from Charon, who decides he wants to retire. And Stella's job is to guide souls to the afterlife. And obviously this has been a very difficult year for a lot of people. So this might not necessarily be a good game for everybody, and I recognize that. But outside the heaviness of the story, you had this beautiful tale of a woman who meant so much to so many different people and took care of them in real life, and then was fortunate enough to encounter them again in the afterlife. And aside from all that, it was this calm, peaceful inventory management game. And not even inventory management is really not even an appropriate term, because there was no inventory management. You didn't run out of space. You never ran out of something. Maybe you had to go get more of something, but I didn't have to worry about like having too many apples or too much gold or whatever it was that I needed to build. I just had to go and get those items to build that thing, and I could do it at my own pace without anything penalizing me if I'm late, because there was no timer on it. So you just focus on one task at a time and you do it and you sail the seas and you go fishing and you cook food and you do all this fun stuff, and it's great and lovely. But it was peaceful. It was relaxing. It had a wonderful soundtrack, absolutely beautiful music. The graphics were stunning. And, it brought some tears to my eyes a couple times. Um, Best hugs I've ever seen in a video game, period.
I gotta say, man, your review on this game, not only now but more so before, has definitely put this game high up on my list of games that I want to play. And it's actually on sale right now.
Is
So
it?
yeah, it's like 22, but I'm gonna wait for like maybe 20 or 15. I think we talked about this, but it's a game that I want to explore because I think as a culture and society, we are still very uncomfortable with death,
Mm.
and it's a part of life, and it's something that we all want to forget about and not think about, right? But I think that this game, based on what you've told me and based on what I've read, makes you a little bit more comfortable with the process.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're really kind of easing and nurturing these people and characters into the afterlife, and I think that's
Mm.
something that I'm willing to explore.
Yeah, I think it's worth your time. I think it's a game that I would recommend to anybody, but not under all circumstances. Like you
No,
have to.
you're breathtaking.
Oh gosh.
Some people will understand that one.
Yeah. Shout out to Killer Sirach who's hitting on us. Oh man. All right. Tell me about the last game on your list.
Sure. The Last Guardian. What an experience, right? Going from potentially tabling the game after being incredibly frustrated with controlling this cat-like creature, cat-like dragon. And
Stubborn cat dragon.
that's right. Yeah, that's an episode title for the books for sure. But yeah, amazing turnaround. I mean, talk about a turn of events. This is a staple and really the epitome of that. And I'm so glad that I stuck with it. I'm so glad that I took that day to just say, right, I'm finishing this game. I don't care how long it takes. It took longer than expected, but the story, I would say, was the equivalent of like what you would see in Avatar. A lot of people hated that movie because they thought it was like Dances with Wolves or whatever, and they thought the story was really generic. But I think that sometimes you need a story that's just tried and true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you find in The Last Guardian is a story that just simply works.
Right.
And it's this sort of sense of, I wouldn't even really say loss, but companionship that's then broken away or ripped away from you. And I think it created that powerful effect that you get from movies like I don't know, Homeward Bound and just a bunch of those movies that just did stories right. And even though they've been redone and rehashed, they sometimes work. And I think I needed that. I needed a story that was a little bit more concise and memorable. And it helped put a lot of the flaws that I think the gameplay had aside. And I will absolutely revisit that game.
Really? Yeah, it floored me. I was really amped up to hear you rip that fucking game apart. And
I was prepared to, man.
Oh man, I'm like, all right, here we go.
Yeah. It's always a popcorn moment when I'm about to rip a game.
Yeah, I was like, here we go. This is going to be great. And you just had a complete about face, and it threw me off. I'm still reeling from it.
Dude, I tell you what, man, I am still crossing my fingers that I'm getting this art book for Christmas from Lauren's cousin, because she was like, hey, Will, what do you want? I was like, you know what? I did finish this game recently, and there's this art book that I really would like. So if you want to get me that, that's cool. If not, no big deal, because I'm going to buy it anyway, because that's what I do. I'm terrible to shop for, and we're going to get to this later. But because I buy everything like pretty much as soon as I want it, people don't have the chance to gift me fucking anything that I want.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I'm the same way. So,
but yeah, I would say, that would be it. We're going to do something a little different next year. We were going to do some Game of the Years, but we're going to hold off on that for now.
Yeah, we have quite a list prepared for the next episode for that, or at least we will. It's kind of work right now, but
yes.
I didn't beat either of these games, but I do want to mention both The Last Jedi and Cyberpunk 2077. Last Jedi, I actually fired it up again last night. Nikki was on the main TV, so I'm like, you know what? This is a good opportunity for me. I was actually going to try to play Cyberpunk on the Xbox One X to see how it was, and I needed to update the patch, and it was like a 2-hour download. So I'm like, Fallen Order is already in there. Am I confusing my things? I'm having a beer, man. Maybe I'm a little drunk already. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Thank you.
Yes. Last Jedi is a movie, bud.
Yeah.
Love it.
So wait, is Killer Sirach fucking it up? Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
maybe.
know. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. I'm trying to play catch up.
Fallen Order. Tremendous game. Really loving it. I am going to beat that game before the end of the year. Full stop. It's going to happen.
Wow. Okay.
I know I'm running out of days. I've got like 10 days left. But I think I'm going to put Cyberpunk on the back burner so I can finish this, because this game has got to get beat, and it is great. It is so...
I think I have a fair shot at this, man.
Yeah, I think so. I'm loving it. I'm definitely in the back half of the game. I don't know how many hours I have left. I don't know really how many hours I have in. But, like if you just follow the pacing of any Star Wars movie, I'm in the back half of it. So
that game is fucking rad, dude.
It's so good.
I'm not going to go off on it too much because I haven't played enough yet to kind of give like a true first impressions, and this isn't really the show for that. But man, I had to text you. I was like, there was a couple moments where Lauren's like, "Hey, stop touching your phone." I was like, I have to tell Drew how fucking cool this game is. And I eventually did, because I couldn't hold it in anymore. I was like, this is fucking, dude, it looks next gen.
It does. I think that's credit to the Unreal Engine. Instead of trying to shoehorn it into the Frostbite engine, they just used Unreal, which is tried and true. That engine is just awesome. And like the first time I fired up my lightsaber and I saw the glow off the walls and on my face and everything, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's badass, dude. I'm so glad that I bought that game.
Yeah, me too. And, I'm playing it on Game Pass, but I think I would have eventually bought it anyway. I'm glad I had an opportunity to play it. And finally, just Cyberpunk 2077. I'm still spending some time with that. There's definitely some shit that's got to get ironed out, but I'm enjoying it so far. And I'm fortunate to be playing it on the Series X, because I think otherwise it would kind of be a dumpster fire. So that's it for the first segment of our show.
Oh boy.
Here we are an hour later.
I'm looking at my battery and I'm like, okay, we're still good.
Yeah. So what do you want to talk about next? Because we were planning on doing a longer episode anyhow, but that definitely took much longer than I thought it would.
It did, and that's okay, because that was an important segment. Well, let's look here. So, why don't we look at, since we're kind of on the topic of 2020, why don't we skip to what games of 2020 caught our attention, unplayed and played?
That's a good topic, yeah. There's an RPG that just came out, and it's on Game Pass. It's called Haven, right? And I don't know a ton about it yet, but the gist of it is it's a third-person role-playing game. I guess there's some survival game elements in it, and it tells a story of two lovers by the names of U and K, and they're already... like you're coming into them and they're already in an established relationship. They're not like meeting each other for the first time and falling in love. Like they're already in the thick of it as far as a relationship goes. And you experience all the good and bad that comes with it, because as everybody who's, in a serious relationship knows, it's work. It's not always easy. And that's okay. Like that's part of the process. So you kind of get to experience that with them. But I guess you could play as either one of the characters, or you could do co-op multiplayer where one person plays as one and the other person plays as the other. And they're searching for materials and resources for their spaceship. They're equipped with these anti-gravity boots. They can kind of navigate and kind of float and fly around the world. And, in true RPG fashion, they have battles that they have to square off against. And the game just looks absolutely stunning. Excuse me. I've seen the soundtrack pop up on my YouTube feed a couple times. I've held off on checking it out because I kind of want to experience the game for the first time and experience the soundtrack with that. But I suspect that it's going to be up my alley.
Sounds like a true game.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of does. I want to do a little bit of research on it and see how long the game is. If it's the kind of thing that maybe I could squeeze in after Fallen Order, um, I might do that because Cyberpunk is going to be something that I'm playing for the long haul, and I'm not opposed to kind of pulling back on that while they release a couple patches.
Yeah. This is kind of making me think of a game called oh my God, I forgot what it's called now. I think it's like Kentucky Zero or something like that.
Mm, mm.
It might ring a bell for you.
Yeah, I sort of know what you're talking about. Kentucky Route Zero
Yeah, I
or
think
Route
so.
Zero. Magical, according to Google, it's a point and click adventure game developed by Cardboard Computer. It's a game. It's a magical realist adventure game about a secret highway running through the caves beneath Kentucky. Okay.
Yeah, it's a game that I saw on a top 50 list that I actually shared for social this week,
Mm,
and I was reading about it. I was like, not only does this sound like a Drew game, but this is a game that I think I would play as well.
mm. Might be.
Because I'm kind of into that shit sometimes, man. I'm into those like weird, obscure indie games as well. It's just sometimes I have to strike when the iron's hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've heard a few people talk about that game as well, and that seems to be something that I might have to check out. It looks like the Metacritic reviews are pretty positive, so
Hmm.
might have to add that to my list. So, what else you got?
I mean, it's a ton of stuff. I don't think we have time to go through all of them, but I
Mm,
think Ghost of Tsushima was a given,
mm-hmm,
something that I was really looking forward to this year that I did purchase and play.
mm-hmm.
Did not come anywhere close to beating it, but it was certainly a game that I wanted to put on this list of games that caught my attention from 2020.
Right.
And what I tried to do here is just put games that actually released this year,
Mm,
just to make it a little bit tighter. Um, so I won't speak on that one too much because I think most people know my thoughts that, that game, even if you're not really a fan of samurai, is just as cool as shit.
yeah.
So that was definitely on the list. If I were to jump to another one that stood out, I would say, without kind of being biased and going for games that I think most people will expect me to say, I think Streets of Rage 4 caught my
Mm,
attention, and it's a game that I still have on my list. It's not very high up on there, but to have a new Streets of Rage game come out and have it look as good as Streets of Rage 4 looks,
mm-hmm.
I think it was worth putting on that list because I heard that it's extremely good.
Yeah. I've played it. It's pretty great. It's what you would expect. They really lean into the replayability of it. There's a lot of unlocks, a lot of characters to acquire through beating the game with specific criteria. Certain characters you beat it with, you get like a variant or somebody that's related to them, and that sort of thing. And it absolutely encourages co-op, whether it's couch co-op or online co-op. I don't believe there's cross-platform, unfortunately. Um, but if I ever decide to pick it up on the PlayStation, I think we should fire that up together.
100%. I'd love to play that game with somebody. My buddy
Yeah,
Miles, he said he played it with his wife, I think several times.
yeah. That seems to be a common theme with people that have played it. Firing it up multiple times, and it leans into that replayability because it's short enough. I mean, it's an arcade game,
Yeah,
so
that's something I think that we can justify when it comes to that the replay value.
right.
It has to have that sort of fun quality and that arcade quality that makes sense for you to revisit it that much.
Right. It's like a loop, that gameplay loop that
Yeah.
just kind of hooks you. It keeps it simple. You move on to the next stage and you proceed.
Hmm.
So,
What else you
um,
got?
Red Strings Club is a game that I bought on the Switch. I started, but I didn't put a ton of time into it, and I'd like to circle back to it. You're playing as a bartender who can extract information and manipulate conversations based on what drink you're serving the player or serving the
Hmm.
NPC. And you can use this information to kind of solve a mystery. It was very interesting. It kind of talked about like AI and rights and some pretty deep philosophical sci-fi shit. Uh, but I need to spend some more time with it before I can really talk about it on a more educated basis. What I did play, I think I put maybe an hour or two into it, and I really liked it. But it is one of those games where, like, if you make a mistake, like you've sealed your fate. Like you can't like circle back and fix it, you know? So if you're trying to sweet talk somebody into giving you information, you piss them off instead, that door is closed.
Mm. I don't think I've really played many titles that are that punishing when it comes to sort of like that end game approach. I know Raph, many years ago, he mentioned this one game. I can't remember what it was. It had a setting where if you died, everything was reset. You had to literally start the entire game over. Your
Was
party
it
was reset.
was it Steel Battalion?
It might have been. I think it was an RPG for, I want to say either the Switch or
Oh no.
it might have been like the Nintendo DS. I'm going to have to ask him now, but I remember it was a pretty big deal. Oh, you know what it was? Fire Emblem.
Oh. I didn't know those were like that.
Yeah, Fire Emblem. I think it's Awakening or something like that. Yeah, Dave's saying Fire Emblem. It absolutely is that. There's one of those titles, and I think it was I think it was the 3DS. There's a setting where if you die, everything resets, and I was like, damn, dude, that's hardcore.
That is brutal. I know Steel Battalion is like that. That's the game for the original Xbox that came with a controller that's the size of your desk.
Yes, I'm aware.
And if you get shot up and you don't eject in time, you lose your save. Wipes it out. You're dead. So not for me. Not for me.
Yeah, and here we are crying like when we get reset at the exact same point that we left off. You know, we can't have it any easier.
Yeah. What else you got?
I would say Boundary is a game that I haven't talked about enough, and I know it's getting close to release. Apparently, it's still scheduled for this month.
Really?
Time's running out, though, so I'm not sure if it's going to make it, but this is a game that takes place in outer space. It's an outer space shooter.
Yeah.
So you're basically an astronaut that is almost like Call of Duty in space, but you're just astronauts in astronaut suits. But I thought that it was really kind of innovative, and I haven't seen a game do this before, this kind of concept. And graphically and from a visual perspective, it looks pretty amazing. So I'm not sure how it's going to shape up. I think it's a Chinese developer. It's a pretty interesting studio behind it that I don't think anybody's heard of. It might be their first game ever. Yeah. But it's a game that I've had my eye on, and I love all things space, and I feel like we're seeing a lot more games that are taking place in space.
Yeah.
There's another one, Pragmata, that's coming out for PS5 and sometime in the future. And then there's Jet the Far Shore. There's a ton of stuff that is becoming more space related.
It's nice to kind of get back into that, man.
It is. You know, I think games have the idea of a game taking place in a universe, quite literally, I think is something that we need to get back to, because even Mass Effect, a game series that I still have yet to kind of sink my teeth into, even just playing parts of one, it's nice to feel like you're on a planet, and it just adds to that cool factor, I think.
Oh man, Mass Effect, love it. I just, that trailer.
Oh, dude, that was brilliant.
Oh, I lost
that was brilliant. I watched it so many times, and I know a lot of people were like, I know Easy Allies, some guys that I really respect, are like, yeah, but it was just CG and there was nothing. And I was like, yeah, but like sometimes you don't always need that. You just need something that is quite literally a teaser.
Right.
And
that's exactly
teasers
what it was.
can be. It was exactly what it was, and it was absolutely perfection.
Look,
or it's absolute perfection, in my opinion.
That game's not coming out until like 2027. Let's just be completely honest here, right?
Yeah, I think they said that.
You know, Killer Sirach says Assassin's Creed in space. Yeah, I'd fucking play that. I would play the shit out of that.
I would. What would you jump off of, though? I know those games
asteroids, starships,
right? Like when you do
comets.
When you're synchronizing and you jump into like that barrel of hay. Oh man.
You know
what else?
Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life is in my top 5 franchises of all time, and Half-Life Alyx,
rightfully so.
It's a game that I would love to play, and I probably never will, because it's a VR game, and I have no immediate intention to build a VR rig that can play that game.
And that was exactly my next point. It seems like you need a decked out Rift for that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's available on the Oculus
Quest
or any of that. I'd have to do some research, but I really just don't intend on dropping $200 to $300 on a VR headset for one game.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think VR is cool, but I don't know that it's for me, at least not yet. But you know, Half-Life is a super special franchise to me.
For a lot of people.
For a lot of people, and this was essentially Half-Life 3 in a lot of ways, and in some ways it's so totally Valve to do that by putting it on VR and limiting the audience, but putting it in a place where they felt that like maybe they can make the most impact by pushing that technology forward with a franchise that people have been clamoring for, right? Because they could have put that game anywhere. Let's just be completely realistic. They made that decision intentionally to put it on VR because it was something that they could kind of push the industry forward with. And it just wasn't enough. You know?
Yeah, I don't think so. And I think it was a disappointment for some people, not the game, but just the fact that it was released in that format, because as much as it may be somewhat of a reality that games will be moving forward into a VR realm, I don't want to be in that realm. As much as I gushed over VR in the beginning, I don't want to see myself as a gamer with a headset on like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I appreciate the technology, but I don't want to be that plugged in. Like that's too Matrix like for me.
Yeah, you were like all about that for quite some time, and then you just, I don't know what happened, but you just like turned a complete 180 and just nope, no, I'm not interested anymore.
It was a novelty piece, and I should have known that. I think our brains love novelty. I think that goes without saying. And with the Quest, it was just like, I don't know. I think I maxed it out too quick, and I was playing too much at once, and I was like, oh, this is so badass and cool. And then when it came to actually like playing a legit game, I didn't really want to. And I think it's because I had this weird knowledge of knowing that I'd have to be like within this, I'd have to be like in the headset, and that kind of like bothered me in some weird way.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like table this and then sell it. And that's what happened.
Yeah, it was really cool when I played yours, though.
That's right. Did you come over and play it?
I did, and I played. I played Super Hot, and I played the Space Station Simulator, which actually made me sick to my stomach.
Oh, and that one was crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. I had to shut that off. But
yeah, there was a couple times I tried to muscle through it, and I was like, "What am I doing?" I actually, I might have mentioned this on the show at the time. I left the spaceship, and I was literally in space, and I had to shut it off immediately because I swear to God, dude, it felt like I was like literally floating. I was going to fall into the universe, and I was like, "Can't do this."
Wow. Yeah, no, thank you.
It was incredible and terrifying at the same time. More so terrifying.
Yeah. What else you got?
I'll probably round it off with like one or two more. I would say Dreams, a game that I've never spoken about on the show, but it's something I've been putting some more research into. From what I understand, this is a game where you can like literally make games, or you can make like these little worlds that other people can traverse, and it's kind of like sort of like a mod game, from what I understand, where you just kind of dabble with different things, and you can create like, say, walk in the wilderness, and then you access that level and you can walk in the wilderness that somebody else built.
Right.
So the name, I think, is very fitting for the game, and I think it's something that's definitely caught my attention. It was released this year, and I think it was just off the radar for me for a while until recently. So for anybody that is not familiar with the game, I highly recommend you check it out.
Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff that people have done, but I haven't looked into the creation process of some of those worlds. It's not for me though. Like I respect what that game is doing, much in the same way that I respect Minecraft for kind of doing the same thing or very similar things. But those types of games are just not for me. I would rather be playing games than making them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I think it's definitely in my PS Prices collection, so I've got it on the radar. But I don't think it's a game that I'm going to be getting anytime soon. I think I want to wait for a lower price before I dabble with that one.
Fair enough.
Because I'm going to be selective with what worlds I enter, and I don't want to find out that I paid $30 for 2 worlds essentially.
Yeah. Right. Let's see here. Let me go to Gears Tactics for me. This is a game that I've been dabbling with on the Series X since it came out. It was originally on the PC, and I did have an opportunity to play it on the PC as well briefly. It's basically XCOM in the Gears of War universe, and it comes with all the greatness and downsides that XCOM has. You know, it's a strategy game, turn-based. You're playing on a kind of a fixed board, which is essentially a grid. Your characters have limited range of movement. I wouldn't really compare it to Final Fantasy Tactics, but I think there are similarities.
Okay.
You know, you have characters that have certain abilities that they can utilize, and because it's Gears of War, these are mostly gun-based abilities, like sniping or shotguns or cloaking, you know, so that you can't be seen, or, you know, gaining additional steps, coming around cover, things like that, right? But it's very strategic, and characters do suffer permadeath. So you're building up this character, you're leveling them up, you're using them on mission after mission so that they continue to improve, continue to get better, become stronger. And then if they die, well, they're gone. You don't get them back. And XCOM did that extremely well, and simultaneously put pressure on you to kind of like make all the right decisions. I haven't gotten that level of pressure yet from Gears Tactics. I'm kind of hoping it comes soon, but I haven't played in a while either. So I kind of need to circle back to that and give it a little bit more time, I think.
Sure.
But it's a fun game. It looked tremendous on the Series X, and essentially it debuted on the console when the Series X launched. So I don't want to say it's a next gen game. Like it's still an Xbox One game. It's still turn based. It's not going to be the type of game I think that would be a showcase game for the system, but it did look incredible.
That's cool, man. I can't really say much on it because obviously I'm just not really a fan, but I can appreciate what it's trying to do, and the comparison with Tactics is actually kind of neat.
Yeah. Advent Portal just chimed in. He says Mario plus Rabbids was more my pace. And I've never played that one, but I believe that is a similar type of game, you know, as XCOM, and you know, that kind of turn-based strategy. It's just wrapped up in brighter colors, and, you know, Mario and cute Rabbids. So it's just a different skin, but the same type of game. So hit me with one more. We'll wrap it up here.
Sure. I'm going to go again with another unexpected title, Microsoft Flight Simulator. So off the map for my kind of game, right? You know, especially considering it's got the word Microsoft in there.
Hold on.
Sure.
Where are you going to play that?
I don't know. As far as I know, I think it's an Xbox game, and definitely PC.
Yes.
But
yes.
The reason why it caught my attention and I wanted to put it on this list is because it looks fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm not into flight simulators or any kind of simulation game per se, but I think that with this game, it's really, a lot of folks have been raving about it for good reason, because apparently you can literally fly like anywhere in the world, and the worlds that are beneath you quite literally are stunning, and there's sunsets and there's different weather, and everything about it just seems a lot more accessible than your traditional flight simulator that your cool uncle has in the basement.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of appealing as well, but it looks just stunning, man.
So one of the guys I used to work with, Dwayne, he had it on PC when it first came out, and he fired it up and crashed his plane into our old job.
Oh my God. He's like, check this out, dude. Fuck this place.
Oh man, it was so disappointing because nothing happened, but it was still great, you know. Like the plane like just bounced off of the roof, like nothing happened at all.
Oh, it's terrible.
But yeah, it was wonderful to see. Yeah, it's
terrible but expected, right?
Terrible but expected. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that's going to be a cool game. But I just you're going to need to join the Microsoft ecosystem at some point if you're going to want to play that.
I would, and we'll see. We'll see how Hellblade 2 shapes up, because if that shapes up to be good and there's some other titles, then, you know, it might be something that I get my hands on.
Yeah, definitely. So let's wrap it up for that topic.
Sure.
Do you have anything else on this list you want to hit? You want to dive into the mailbag? We are running quite late.
We are, and my battery is lower. I think that's the subtle way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's lower. Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff, honestly, from a serious perspective, we can move to next year because a lot of it is 2021 focused.
Yep.
So pass the breadsticks. Let's definitely do mailbag.
All right, sounds good. So let me just rearrange my windows here. And actually, going through the mailbag, a lot of the questions kind of dipped their toes into the waters of what the topics were that we had in the first place. So don't forget, folks, if you ever have anything that you'd like to leave for our mailbag segment, best place to do so is in our Discord room. You could type in ! links in the Twitch chat, or just go to the show notes when this show comes out, and you'll be able to do that. We have a mailbag full of great questions, so let's start at the top. Scooby Diesel asks, would you like to ask this question? Well, apparently
it's been a long night. Let me pull it up because I have my notes here.
Yeah.
Let's see here. By the way, just to kind of segue here, I don't know why I mentioned this. I can't remember now, but I know Scooby will appreciate this. I was reading, I think, one of Scooby's comments in mailbag or somewhere else, and I was telling Lauren about it. And I said Scooby Diesel as though it was like a real person. I was like, yeah, Scooby Diesel. And she was like, whoa, excuse me? Who? And I was like, yeah, Scooby. And I was like, let me explain.
Oh, God. I love it.
All right, let's get to the question here. So Scooby Diesel says, if you celebrate Christmas, what traditions do you have?
I really don't have anything crazy. My family's small, so it's usually just me, my wife, and my parents, or me, my wife, and her parents. Sometimes it's me, my wife, and my parents and her parents. That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't do anything crazy like hiding a pickle in a Christmas tree or anything.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus Christ. I wouldn't say our traditions are really any different than most people's Christmas traditions. I mean, we get together as a family as best as we can each year.
Yeah.
Typically, it is 3 Christmases in a way, which I suppose in hindsight makes it potentially different than your typical family. However, like when you're married, you're definitely dealing with 2 families usually. So for Lauren and I, it ends up being Christmas Eve at Lauren's dad's in Bristol, Christmas Day at home with family, and then at Lauren's mom's in Southington. So it can get kind of daunting. This year we are doing something similar, but it's a little bit different this time because of COVID. Sure, I mean, it would be nice to get together as a unit, if you will, but hey, that's family, and it's sometimes hard to do when you have basically just a lot of family members that don't necessarily get together. And Lauren's mom is very traditional with doing Christmas at her place, and really nowhere else. So we have to respect that and kind of trek up there every year. But this year we are doing Christmas there for a short while, Christmas Eve virtually this time with her dad, which will be interesting on Skype. And then we're doing Christmas here just at home. So a little bit different, but generally that's what we do, Scooby.
Yep. He also asks, building on that, do you do multiple gifts for the special someone in your lives, or tend to do 1 or 2 bigger gifts, or do you hate that person and give them coal?
Oof. I mean, I think generally each year that goes by, we do less and less gifts, and it becomes very much like, hey, let's not do gifts this year. And then there's still gifts given.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at still. Every year, again, that goes by, we continually say we're not going to do gifts, and then it still becomes a gift, but it's smaller every time. So it's like, if somebody's getting 5 alcoholic nips this year, they're getting 4 alcoholic nips.
Right.
So we're still just trying to get to the point where we just do cards and maybe a couple drinks, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah. With Nikki, we do exchange gifts with each other, but we've never really gone crazy with gifts. Like for our birthdays, we don't even really exchange gifts for birthdays or our anniversary. We will go out for a nice dinner or maybe go away for the weekend or something like that. We'd rather do an experience. For Christmas, I still want her to have something open. So we'll do shopping, but we'll basically give each other a list of things that we want and then just buy things off that list because we're the type of people that if we want something, we buy it.
Yep, same.
So shopping for each other is kind of boring and not very surprising. When it comes to friends, I used to be like really big on giving gifts to friends, and now what I would really rather do is go out for like a really nice dinner instead.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Save the money that you would spend on whatever that item was that you were going to get me, and let's go out for like a wonderful evening together with our loved ones and just have a great night that we'll remember. This year obviously that can't happen, but in the past it's always worked out really well, and going to like my favorite restaurant that like maybe I only go to once or twice a year because it's super expensive, well, that's fucking worth it this time of year.
You're 100% right, man. I mean, getting together is way more memorable. It's something that you truly remember every year that goes by
Right.
versus stumbling across some gift that somebody gave to you 3 years ago and you actually can't remember who gifted it to
Right.
you.
Right.
So I think that proves a lot.
Mm-hmm. Puxor asks, it's the end of the year, which means that with the longer nights, shorter days, and colder weather, it's time to kick back and settle into gaming. With that, give us your holiday game / drink / snack pairings.
I mean, anything cozy usually. I think right now, obviously, I'm currently working on my backlog, and right now it's Fallen Order, which is not really a backlog game. But as far as like, I don't really have like a cozy holiday game per se,
Yeah.
but there are definitely moments in the wintertime where I'll try to choose something that is a little bit more cozy. So it just makes me kind of get that nice feeling of just being on the couch with a blanket, seeing the snow outside. And as far as a drink and a snack pairing, I mean, for me, it's either water, coconut water,
Yeah.
or some obscure healthy snack like dried pineapple rings or something. So for me, it's not like, oh, I do Christmas M&Ms and,
Yeah.
a nice glass of crushed orange soda. Like I'm not that fun.
No. I mean, for me, like as far as the gaming goes, it's kind of the same. Like I really don't have like a go-to winter game. I just have
Mm,
whatever game I'm playing.
right.
When we're looking at snacks, I do tend to, well, I have a thing for pastries and baked goods. Like that's my weakness.
Amen.
If I could live on eating bagels, I would, because the bagel is the best food. Um,
It's so versatile
it
too.
really is. Like you can do anything. But uh, you know, cookies, brownies, pastries, danishes, things like that. That's my jam.
Mm,
Drinks, if we're talking alcoholic, I'm really getting into whiskeys and scotches right now. So it would probably be one of those. Maybe a nice pour of the Nikka coffee malt whiskey from
mm.
Japan, which is by far the best whiskey I think I've ever had.
Wow.
Um, if we're talking like non-alcoholics, like I'm a coffee addict, so coffee is always a hit, or tea. I really enjoy tea, and a wide variety of teas too. My favorite is Earl Grey. I do blame Star Trek. That's okay. Games. If you are in a party, you have to play any of the Jackbox games. Like
I knew that was going to happen.
I
Yeah.
know, getting together in large gatherings is difficult right now.
Yeah.
I am told there's ways to do it pretty efficiently remotely. I've done a game with Majid and Brad through Discord once, and it worked pretty well. It wasn't the same as being in there as person, but it was pretty cool. And those games are just hysterical. And if everybody is a little tipsy, it's even better. So
Love it.
um, as soon as you're able to, or even if you're getting together with people that are in your small circle, um, Jackbox all the way.
I would say, kind of answering Pux's question in regards to drinks, and now that you mentioned alcoholic choices, if I did choose one, which I typically don't drink in game because I just fall asleep in 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
it would be a really nice glass of a good red wine from
Mm-hmm.
Argentina. So, like a Malbec or a really nice Italian Barolo.
Mm-hmm.
I do like red wine and I do know a decent amount about it. So, yeah, a really nice, smooth red
Yeah,
if I did go with an alcoholic beverage.
I haven't had a red wine in a couple years, basically since Nikki stopped drinking,
Mm.
and
I can change that.
I do enjoy red wines from time to time. I would never buy one for myself because I don't want to open a bottle and then be responsible for finishing it. Because that's a bad time for everybody. But yeah, man, like a nice Cabernet is like right up my alley.
I just had this image of you on a couch, just like all fucking sloshed with your bottle of red wine, just cheap red wine,
Red
just drinking it
teeth.
from the bottle, red teeth, and you're just like fucking slobs, like yelling at the TV and shit. Nikki's like, "What are you doing?" You're just like, "Don't worry about it, slobs." Like wiping your mouth with your arm.
God.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Oh man, maybe someday you'll be lucky enough to witness that. Patrick from Retrospective's podcast asks, best video game gift you've ever received.
This was a tough one, since typically I do buy everything that I want before anyone can gift it to me because I'm an asshole. But I probably have to say The Eyes of Bayonetta 2, which is one of my favorite art books for, well, Bayonetta 2. Lauren gifted it to me one Christmas. I love it. I love art books. It's a beautiful, beautiful art book. It's hard to choose my favorite out of all the ones that I have, but that one is certainly up there. And it was one of the best Christmas gifts at the time because I really wanted it. It's kind of a rare one. So for me to be able to have that in my possession was certainly a good gift.
Very nice. PlayStation 1 from my parents. I was like maybe 12 or 13. It was the last video game console they bought me. But that console was life-changing. That was just an incredible experience growing up with that.
For certain. I mean, if we were to harken back to the childhood days, I would easily say Zelda Ocarina of Time. That, as well as just everything, the whole era of N64. I got a lot of stuff for Christmas. Well, in 96, 97, and those are some of the best gifts I ever received for Christmas, for sure.
Very nice, yeah. Joe Donuts asks, what 2020 games are you happily tucking into your backlog for 2021? Think of games that you didn't get to but haven't forgotten about that you look forward to revisiting next year or beyond.
I mean, a lot. Is that an answer?
Yeah.
I think Nier Automata or Automata. I know a lot of people pronounce that two different ways, but I think that's a game that I'm looking forward to playing. I almost started it before you yelled at me because I was like, man, this game looks fucking good, and it's totally like a will game. But that and just almost everything in my backlog that I didn't get to this year, I'm really jonesing to play next year. So I know it's kind of a tall order, but there are some gems in there that I really am looking forward to unpacking in 2021.
I mean, if we're talking specifically 2020 releases, I've already put quite a bit of time into Cyberpunk, but I would say the Cyberpunk does fall into that category. Haven is one of them. That's certainly a game that I want to spend some time with. I'm trying to think of what else. I'm sure there's probably like...
Would you say that God of War might be on there?
Well, considering that it's not a game that came out in 2020, yes.
Okay.
I have a ton of games that didn't come out in 2020 that are on that list. God of War is absolutely on that list. There was something else too on the PlayStation that I'm drawing a blank now.
Is it a big boy title or is it an indie game?
Let me hit up Trello because I think it was something that I used in one of the other categories that we didn't get to. Fuck.
Well, shit.
Stall for time.
I mean, okay, so Scooby Diesel, you asked 3 questions, you greedy bastard. I actually put Scooby Diesel Q3 when I was making my notes, and I was like, this motherfucker.
Yeah. I can't find what I'm looking for, but yeah, God of War. Yes, God of War's on there. So go ahead. We can move on now. I'm sorry.
So Scooby Diesel, let me pull up mailbag here because I, again, don't have it in front of me. His third question is, what is something that your other host doesn't know about you that you think would make him say, what the fuck?
I know how to rip your ear off.
Jesus, is that like a martial arts thing?
It totally is.
Okay.
It totally is.
I mean, I'm honestly not sure because I think at this point, Drew and I know each other's blood type and socials. So it's kind of like, I just don't know. I mean, I even revealed to Drew recently my guilty pleasure, which I'm looking forward to watching at 9 o'clock this evening, which is Below Deck Mediterranean on Bravo. So get ready to stone me, folks. I'm expecting to get eaten alive by the sharks this week.
Oh God.
Um, I just don't know, man. I mean, I really don't think there's anything that I do secretly that you wouldn't know about.
Yeah.
I thought about it. I really did. I was like, is there something that I do that like Drew would be like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I had to
And
dig
I
pretty
really don't think
deep.
there is.
Yeah, I had to dig pretty deep too.
And that's a bizarre one, man. I don't know if I should be terrified or just thinking like, man, that's some John Wick shit.
Well, I'll show you next time you come over.
All right. Can we do it on like a Mr. Potato Head and not me?
It's not quite the same. You got to just kind of grip the ear the right way. You got to grab onto the meaty flesh. You know, it's a whole.
Yeah, I
thing.
don't know, man. I had this dude. I had this dude at work when I was still at Men's Warehouse. He did a wrestling move on me. I think it was like the People's Elbow, and he did it on my right forearm. And I swear to God, I still have twinging in that forearm from when he did that.
So it couldn't have been the people's elbow, because the people's elbow involves you laying on the ground and like he's dropping an elbow on you.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Oh wait, he did that in the middle of the store? Did he like shake his hands back and forth and run the ropes too?
He didn't run the ropes. We didn't have ropes, but there were these weird like benches that we had in the store for customers to sit down and try shoes on. And I laid down on that, and he's like, dude, check this out. And I was like, dude, this is probably not a great idea. And every once in a while, like, I'll just do something with my right arm, and I feel like a weird twinge, like, from a tendon, and I'm like, that motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh, man. Let's see here. Moving on. Let's see here. Son of a Fitch says, who was your favorite guest of the year, and why was it Jimmy?
That was hilarious, actually. My answer is all of them, just because I really don't know if I have a favorite. I could think of some standouts, but it was hard for me to remember who was on the show this year, and quite frankly, I was too lazy to go back and look. So I'm just going to say all of them.
I'm literally looking right now, and it's like some of our interviews are pretty few and far between, but like we had some great ones, and Jimmy's was among my favorites.
It was a lot of fun.
Did we interview Patrick and James this year or last year? I don't remember.
I thought about that one because that was certainly a highlight for us. I mean, that was a very pleasurable episode. I mean, those guys they have the gift of gab, and they really know how to dissect the games. So I appreciated that. Jimmy was just on point with his cadence, and I think that was not only humorous but just really a joy to kind of participate with.
Absolutely. Retrospectives guys were in June. So there you go. Episodes 80 and 81. Go back.
Those were great.
Go back and give those a listen. Yeah. That was, I think, just it was such a different interview from what we normally do, just because we had two people on at the same time, you know?
Yes. And they're just very well versed at what they do. And I think that was just kind of, I don't know, humbling and refreshing at the same time.
Yeah, it was. But I agree with you 100%, man. It's like just any of our interviews, you know, just really, anytime we can get somebody on the show, it's a great time.
Oh, it's exciting, man.
Let's see here. He also asks, is there a new approach to how you guys do the show now that you're live streaming it with your faces up? Any big things you'd like to get accomplished with this podcast in 2021?
I mean, I think Drew and I toss around a lot of ideas constantly until we decide to throw the spaghetti at the wall. A lot of strategizing, but yes, I think there's a lot that we'd like to accomplish next year. We're thinking about Patreon. We're thinking about merchandise. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that we have kind of like in the archives that we're working on. We're kind of dusting off and always evolving and trying to evolve. And I think that's kind of a loose way of putting it, but I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. I mean, like there's like just this whole section in our Trello board of just like idea barfs, you know?
Yeah.
If you have an idea, just like throw it here, and maybe we won't get to it for a long time. I mean, there's stuff that's been in there since we created the board. So, you know, it's just a matter of finding the right time for it. But, you know, I'm definitely on board with new merch. Patreon, I think if we're going to do a Patreon, we need to find a way to make it worthwhile to anybody that subscribes, and we need to make sure that people are actually interested in subscribing. And I don't know that we're at that point. As far as like being on Twitch, one of the downsides is we don't have the luxury of bullshitting for 20 minutes before we record anymore. So,
Yeah.
if you've noticed, there haven't really been any bloopers at the start or the end of the episode like there used to be. And that's because there can't be. Will and I have a very short window to chat before we go live, and we can't fuck around because we're advertising that we're going to start recording at 6:30. We have to be on the air at 6:30.
Yeah, it's a tighter regimen now, and that's okay. And I think that there's still going to be plenty of room for bloopers. So for the fans that still enjoy those, don't worry, there's going to be more.
Yep. Advent Portal does note that on a positive note, we still won't have to wear pants on the stream. So that's true.
That is true.
Epic Outro is suggesting we do a wall calendar for 2021. Should we do it like in cosplay as like our favorite characters, or like maybe we should do like one of those fireman calendars where like you and I just pose with like controllers in our hands all buff and stuff? I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I had some bad visions. I just was imagining us as like Chippendales with shitty bow ties around our necks, and we're just like naked and afraid and oh my God. You know, I was actually thinking like we could do screenshots of like our faces just in the weirdest expressions like from Twitch episodes, and just kind of capture just like only the faces a mother could love, and just kind of putting that for like June, and people like page up and they're like, what the fuck is Will like, what is he doing? Why is one eye closed, and he looks like he's about to like he's got like the Donald Trump like thing going on.
Oh my God.
Oh man, we'll come up with something, but that's not a bad idea, dude.
It's not a terrible idea at all. Shannon asked if you could instantly get a new unannounced game for Christmas, what would it be? It can be an old IP or something else entirely.
Asura's Wrath 2.
I'm gonna pull up our Trello board because we did have something listed there. KOTOR 3.
Okay.
I would
Very respectable.
I would love a KOTOR 3, and I wouldn't mind a Fallen Order 2. I'm really digging that game. So,
goddamn.
Shannon also asks, ray tracing is a new gimmick for this generation. How would you like to ultimately see ray tracing utilized?
This one was tricky because, and I know that you're going to dip into this probably too. I mean, I don't know a ton about it. I'm not fully educated on it. But from what I do know, I'd like to see it used in the Elder Scrolls 6. And the reason why I say that is because I think that ray tracing, from what I understand, is a lot to do with like shadows and artifacts and water reflections and that kind of stuff. And I think ray tracing would accompany that game really well with its sort of real life type environments.
Yeah, he actually suggests using it for a new Splinter Cell game. And I think that type of game would be perfect for ray tracing.
Shadows.
It seems like it's all about the reflections. It's all about how light plays on not just shadows, but the lack of shadows as well too. And Splinter Cell is certainly a game that would take advantage of that. Cyberpunk does a pretty good job depending on what you're playing it on. But there's been some nice reflections of the neon lights in puddles of water on pavement, and seeing that kind of evolve as you walk around it. It doesn't stay static. It's certainly dynamic. So I think ray tracing is cool, but he points out that it is the new gimmick, and it certainly is a gimmick. If NVIDIA wasn't like constantly championing ray tracing, everybody would just be saying, oh man, those shadows look cool.
Yeah. But it is gimmicky because it's that next term that everybody likes to toss around now.
Right.
It's
a little much.
I just need to do, it is a little much. And I think that I need to just be better educated on it, because I really have done very, very little research on what it's all about. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Splinter Cell, I think that could be used in a pretty interesting way. I don't know if there's a game that when your shadow is exposed to the enemy that they can actually tell that somebody's there.
Right.
But that would be pretty cool if they implemented that. And I'd love to see that series make a comeback, because I still think about how good Chaos Theory looks on
Oh
the
man,
original Xbox.
I loved that game. That game was just incredible, and yeah,
It was
I
a showstopper at the time.
it was. I need a new Splinter Cell in my life. I need a new Splinter Cell in my life.
Yeah,
So
and they were fucking tough, dude. They were pretty tough.
yeah, oh yeah. No, I mean those were definitely games that I was like save scumming. You know, I'd save a die and I just reload it, or maybe I just alerted somebody, pause, reset, reload. Just I abuse that privilege so much, but tremendous franchise when it's done right. And I think it's been a while, so maybe 2021 or 2022 is a good year for Splinter Cell to come back.
Remember Siphon Filter?
I do, and I never got around to playing those. I do have copies of them that I picked up years later. So I'd like to at some point fire those up on the PlayStation, but I never actually played them.
That'd be fun. Yeah, they're like the epitome of PS1.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I got them. Well, they're somewhere over there, but anyway, that closes the mailbag, and that wraps up our show for tonight.
Yeah, and for the year.
For the year. So we are going to be taking a break. We're taking off next week, so there'll be no episode on Wednesday the 30th. But we will be back, and better than ever, back on Twitch on January 4th, Monday, probably 6:30 as usual, with the audio episode dropping on January 6th, Wednesday. So, Will, it's been a fun year, man.
It has, man. I gotta say, I'm so pumped for next year. I think there's so much to look forward to gaming wise and for the show, and I'm excited to come back fresh and just kind of rejuvenated. And yeah, I mean, what a year this has been. A troubling year, but something that we kind of just pressed on with, and I'm really happy with how this year turned out for the show.
Absolutely, and we have a lot of things coming still in the pipes, and we have a lot of stuff that we're just going to make bigger and better as we go on. And it's been a lot of fun doing this all on Twitch. So I want to first of all give a shout out to everybody that was in the Twitch chat with us tonight. You guys,
yes,
incredible. Having this dynamic conversation with everybody in real time, it's so much fun. And I wasn't sure I would enjoy it as much as I do, but I really think that it's kind of helped make this show more inclusive, which has always been kind of a goal of ours.
I couldn't agree more, man. It's exciting to see, even 11 people in the chat. That's the equivalent of 100 for us. So
it is.
We really appreciate it, and what a blast to just see people chiming in. And I don't know, it definitely makes us feel good. So it does not go unnoticed.
If I could ask for all of our listeners to do one thing for us, though, as a Christmas gift to Will and I, like our show on Facebook, retweet our episodes on Twitter, share the episodes with somebody you know that maybe hasn't heard them. Just tell one person. We'd be incredibly grateful for that. And if you're subscribing to us through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever, leave a review.
Please.
And all that helps. We don't often ask for those types of things, usually because we forget, but those little things really do go a long way. Don't forget, we're on YouTube. We do have a YouTube presence. It is going to be mostly consisting of this stream as well as highlights from it. So if you don't have the opportunity to catch the entire thing, usually starting on Thursday, we'll drop a few videos from the previous episode, and you can kind of interact with us in a slightly different way. Of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast. All the links for this is in the show notes. And if you're listening to us for the first time, click on that link for our Discord room. Come on by and say hello. We would love to have you be a part of the conversation.
100%. I love it when somebody new joins, because it's always just like, oh, who's this?
Yep.
But it's always a good thing, it makes our day when we see somebody new join. So
yep. Shannon's
really appreciate it.
Shannon's brother, Corey the Crusher, is the newest member of the chat, and he joined in. I'm like, hey, welcome to the chat. Who the hell are you? and when he explained, how we got introduced to us, like, that was really fucking cool. And, I appreciate Shannon for spreading the word and showing his brother our show. And Corey, we're glad to have you here. And, anytime you guys can bring on somebody else that you think might like it, hey, if they don't like it, they don't like it. That's cool. But pass it along and let them make a decision. And, if they want to talk about video games, like our Discord is a great place to do it. Couldn't be happier with the wonderful community that we have.
Couldn't agree more, man. Well said and well put. And yeah, if you have a distant cousin that has another cousin that has a relative cousin and they game, send them a letter with our website on it.
Dear
a handwritten
sir
letter.
Or madam.
Dear cousin of a cousin. I hear you like games with a Z. Here's our website. We stream every Monday at 6:30. Smash that like button and yeah.
Yes, sir. Will, how can they find you on your music and your creations?
A website called soundcloud.com/will_gear.
And you can find me on Twitter, most actively there these days, at ScienceStorm. And that's going to do it. I'm tired. So
likewise, man.
Wrap
Likewise.
it up. Go watch your cruise ship down under.
Oh, I got it. Such trash.
Oh, God. I'm going to go to bed. I got to get up at 4:30 tomorrow. We'll see you later, folks.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Stay safe. Stay healthy. We'll see you next time.
Godspeed.